Hello, Corey from Repeal Club here. Today we're going to continue our three-part series on shirts. If you happen to miss part one, the focus on that was fit, making sure that the shirt cut was aligned to be as aesthetically pleasing as possible for your body type and also comfortable. And today we're going to talk about part two, which is collars. Why are collars important for shirts? Well, if you're a person who likes to wear ties, maybe long ties, bow ties, could be bandanas, scarf, could be you don't like to wear ties at all and you're going to wear a shirt with an open collar. Each of these styles demands a different type of shirt collar. And so we'd like to make sure that you get the right collar to kind of pair with your neckwear. So you're thinking about your look overall, and the shirt is an ingredient of that look. And so it has to support the other parts. So we're going to start with the most casual shirts and work our way towards the more formal. We're not going to talk about the tuxedos and the black tie or white tie stuff. I want to save that for a future video, but we'll talk about all of the common shirt collars that you see and some special ones that we do too that you may not see as often. That being said, let's get started. The first shirt I want to talk about is the camp or pajama collar. So this is a casual open collar. You'll notice this is a shirt that's meant to be tucked out. It's got the squared bottom and it's relatively, let's say, short by comparison. And this open collar, I suppose you could wear with a bandana, but generally speaking, this is a shirt that's easy, weekend shirt. It's at the low end of the formality scale, as we said. A nice, easy weekend shirt. Okay. Moving onward from that, we're going to go into our next collar, which is our band collar or granddad. So that's nice. This is a linen, also makes a nice weekend shirt. See it here, it's in a nice cotton with that contrasting white band. It's kind of a nod back to the detachable collars from the 1920s and 1930s. And this is actually a very nice shirt. You can wear this with suspenders, a cap, maybe a nice pair of trousers. It's a good look. And it can be actually quite elegant in a casual way. So you could wear a bandana with this, you could wear a scarf with this. Of course, all ties are out of the question, but this can be dressed up in as a quite versatile shirt, which is a nice one to have in your wardrobe. Moving onward from that, going to the club or polo collar, which you'll notice has its rounded points. It's kind of a smaller collar in proportion, and it has relatively small tie space. Well, what is tie space? So tie space is the distance that you have in here between the points. So because this collar has relatively small tie space, you could put a bow tie, you could put a half Windsor, or maybe a four-in-hand. But a bigger knot like a full Windsor or a tie with a thick inner lining will push these collar points up and it won't lay flat on your chest. It's not a good look. I also think because this collar in proportion is relatively small, if you wear this collar without any type of neckwear, just with the shirt open, it tends to look to me undersized and insignificant. So this is not a collar that I would favor for a guy who doesn't like to wear neckwear or wear ties. Okay? So moving on from that, we have another version. This might be one you haven't seen. This is Wembley. This is our tennis collar. And so if you notice the rounded points that we had on the polo collar, this is similar, but it has a lot more spread, meaning there's more tie space, right? So we're picking up that combination and connection between the spread and the tie space. So this shirt, you could wear a fuller tie. You could wear a full Windsor, half Windsor, bow tie, four-in-hand with this. Again, the proportions are still quite neat. So it's still not a collar that I would recommend that you wear without neckwear. But it's something original and quite a nice collar overall, which we like. All right, moving it back into some of the more standard collars. This is the spread collar. And when we talk about spread, we're talking about this angle and the distance between the collar points. So you say this has quite a large spread. That means, again, lots of tie space, room for a half Windsor, full Windsor, four-in-hand, bow tie. Or this is a great shirt also to wear without any tie at all because the collar has significant proportion in weight. It looks substantial. You'll notice that for fabric, this shirt is done in something that's a little bit bigger check. It's still something that will work with the tie, but we did that one this way because it also works as a sports shirt and looks great without a tie. So when we're thinking about that versatility too, we're also thinking about how that plays into fabric, which will be something that we discuss more in part 3. So this is your spread collar. Following that, we have our standard collar. You say, oh, standard, well, what does that mean? So if our spread collar has a lot of cutaway and an angle like this, our standard collar is like a 45-degree angle, right? It's not too narrow this way, it's not too spread out in the other direction. So that means this collar, again, is highly versatile. So it will receive half Windsor, full Windsor, 4-in-hand, bow ties. It can also be worn with no neckwear at all. We like the contrasting white collars because it looks crisp, it brings attention to your face, and it also makes it easier to pair a tie if that tie is sitting on next to something white. So you'll see that quite often. And again, it's a nod back to those 20s and 30s detachable collars. So this is our standard collar. Moving on from that, we have another popular vintage-inspired collar, and this is our spear point. So spear point collar is characterized by its long points, the long point length here, and the fact that it's quite narrow. So that when you have this on, the points are sitting quite close to the placket. And again, so we're looking at this, we're noticing that conversation we were having about tie space comes up again. There's not a lot of room here. So this is going to go with a 4-in-hand or a half Windsor. I haven't worn this shirt open. I've seen some guys wear this shirt open, sometimes with this collar even outside the jacket collar. It's a very specific look. I don't think that this collar is that versatile. I tend to like it with a tie. I think it's fantastic. So that's your spear point collar. All right, moving on. This is probably one of the most popular collars. Every guy probably has a few of these in their wardrobe, and that's the button down. So the button down has a nice amount of spread. That means it's versatile in terms of ties. This could be half Windsor, full Windsor, bow tie, 4-in-hand. You could do a scarf with this. And it also looks great with no tie at all. So again, you'll notice we've cut this in like a nice micro check. Would look amazing with a knit tie, but would also look amazing 2 buttons unbuttoned and just unbuttoned under a jacket. Plays great as a sports shirt as well. So again, a very versatile collar. I think at the top of elegance, the buttons, kind of if you're going for a very, very elegant look, I do think they slow it down a little bit. It's more trad elegant, let's say. But the versatility, I think it's one of the most versatile shirts you can have in the wardrobe. So probably every guy needs a few of these. Moving on, it's one of my favorites that I'm wearing now, and that is the hidden under tab. And so you'll see that here, and that's a little strap, and that strap goes under the tie. Actually, you'll notice I have that on right now. And so if you look at the sides of the collar here, you'll notice that tab pulls the collar in, kind of pinches it and gives it a very unique look. From the side, you'll notice that that tie comes out and kind of cascades. It kind of comes out and then drops in a way that's quite beautiful. And this kind of collar gives you a similar appearance to what you would have if you had a separate tie bar, but the tie bars can be kind of fussy and are tricky to close, and this is much easier. Another benefit about this collar is that if you're traveling or you're going someplace and you have your tie on, your tie will never get loose here. It will sit beautifully next to your neck because it's held by that tab. So you'll look amazingly polished from start to finish. So one of my favorite collars, I think, has a little bit of vintage appeal. It's a little unusual. Of course, can only be worn with a long tie, and probably 4-in-hand or half Windsor. If you have a full Windsor tie, this is a vintage tie. It's pretty soft. So I actually do have a full Windsor on this tie, but that's only because the tie is soft that I'm able to make a tight knot and fit that in. One of my favorites, the hidden under tab. So if we imagine the under tab that we just looked at and the polo collar had a baby. That's where this fits in. So it's that same beautiful pinch look that you get on the under tab, but just with rounded points. Again, something a little special, something unusual that you won't see that often. And this beautifully fine white and blue micro stripe. Very nice. Again, of course, with a long tie. So following the under tabs, the next conversation that makes sense is the tie bars, right? And you'll notice that this collar has the eyelet here that allows you to insert the tie bar, which is going to pull these points in together and give you that pinched look that's very similar to the hidden under tab that we just talked about. I tend to find these shirts a little harder. You have to be pretty nimble. The tie bars can be a little fussy and hard to operate. It's also a beautiful vintage look, kind of a signature look if you're that guy, but I generally will guide guys into this shirt, which gives you the same look without having, or a very similar look, let's say, without having to manage the hardware and deal with the tie bars. But we do have that available. All right, so I think we've gone through the range of the shirts with some interesting novelty collars. In our third part in the series, we're going to come back to talking about fabric. And the fabric itself is quite important. And also patterns, right? Because you want to pick a shirt that plays with a lot of different things. You want versatility in your wardrobe. If you have let's say 6 shirts and 5 pair of pants and 2 or 3 jackets, and all of those things work together, then maybe together you have 30 or 40 different outfits with a relatively small number of clothes, which means the quality of the clothes can be excellent. So when we look at shirt fabrics, we're going to look at, first we'll talk about the fibers and how those kind of play out, but we'll also talk a little bit about patterns and how you can make sure that you're getting shirts that cover as much territory for you in your wardrobe as possible. A shirt that could be used for business, a shirt you might go out to have drinks in, a shirt that you could roll up the sleeves and wear in a casual way, and what types of fabrics play into those looks as well. So stick around for that. That'll probably happen in the next week, part 3 with fabric. This is part 2. Again, Corey Miller from Repeal Club. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll see you soon. Be well.